You don't attract what you want, you actually notice what you focus on. And that's the law of attraction and what we're going to be talking about today. Hi, I'm Nicola Brunton, host of Freedom from the Desk. So, thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about episode number 2 in my little mini-series just before we hit Christmas and New Year of 2025. The law of attraction, the science of focus and reticular activation. So today we're diving into one of the most talked about concepts in the personal development space, and it's a term that's thrown around a lot, the law of attraction. And it's got a lot of woo-woo and fluff associated to it. I'll be the first one to admit that. But for me, I want to strip it right back and kind of lean into the science behind how our brain actually filters information and how your focus actually shapes what we notice and how this creates the outcome that you experience in life and in business. Because there's a real neurological explanation behind the idea of what we focus on expands. Let's talk about where the actual idea comes from. So the law of attraction became pretty mainstream through books like The Secret, but the real roots actually go a lot deeper and are fundamentally a lot more grounded than that. So philosophically, it's based on the idea that like attracts like, and practically it's based on something very real in our brains called the Reticular Activating System, or RAS for short. You might hear a lot of coaches, a lot of people in the trauma space talk about RAS. So in today's episode, for me, we're not going to be talking about the manifesting side of things by, thinking about $1 million in your bank account and it magically appearing, or manifesting a car and it turns up in your garage. Manifestation is powerful, don't get me wrong, but we're talking about how our brain actually filters our reality based on what you believe, expect and pay attention to. And Tony Robbins talks about this a lot with the whole colour concept of, he'll tell you to look for, he's done interviews where he'll say, look for the red in the room, tell me everything, just focus on the red in the room. And then the person focuses on the red on the room, and then he'll say, oh, what's the blue thing in this room? And they haven't got a clue because they've been focusing on that thing. And that's exactly what's going on in our brains. So quickly we'll touch on the science behind the Reticular Activating System. Okay, so the RAS is your brain's filter. Think of it like that. So we're exposed to millions and millions of bits of information every single second, which we don't have to do. Our brain handles all that, so that's absolutely amazing in itself. The brain can't process all of that consciously, so what the RAS does is it decides what it lets through in that filter system. The RAS shows you what you've labelled as important. So your goals, your fears, your beliefs, your expectations. And whatever we focus on consistently, either positively or negatively, your brain starts scanning the world for evidence of that. So whatever's implanted in our brains, and it may go back to childhood and beyond when we were born, it's a really complex subject, so we're not going to touch on that today. We're just skimming the surface to give you guys a little insight. So everyday examples of this might be, you buy a new car, right? I mean, we've all done this. We're excited about a car and it's a red car, right? And then the minute you go out, you suddenly see it everywhere. You see that model, you see the shape, you see your colour. They're just everywhere. Or you decide to start a new business and you notice a lot of other people doing the same thing. Or your fear failure. Your brain highlights threats instead of possibilities because we're actually speaking into our fears. This is the big one. You believe people judge you. Well, it is for me anyhow. And you notice things or moments that actually confirm that belief. So your brain isn't actually attracting these things, it's filtering them. And that's the RAS doing its job, because these are the things that sort of come to the top of the pile. So therefore, it takes the most important things for you, whatever they may be, and it actually filters them and keeps an eye out for those things. So that's why it's really important to feed our mind and our brain those things that are crucial for us to develop rather than us to shrink. So that filtering obviously massively has influences on our behaviours and our results and outcomes. So let's just look at what this looks like actually in real life. And I think the best example is, why can you have two people that have this exact same circumstances turn out completely different for experiences? And they've done this in twin studies, and they've done this on people that have been probably not the best examples of the human race, with people that have sadly been committing crimes, and or even like people that have been brought up in two different homes and things like that. So if your focus is on your problems, you'll see obstacles, risks, and all the reasons that you can't. But if you focus on possibilities, you'll see opportunities, solutions, and reasons you can. So the law of attraction, when grounded in science, really becomes the law of focus. Because where your attention goes, your energy flows. And a lot of you may have heard that saying before. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And also, your decisions shift there. And your confidence grows or shrinks, or your behaviour changes, and your reasons transform. So it's a really powerful tool to look at the science framework behind the law of attraction. Particularly powerful, obviously, for us in our lives and in business as well. So putting the business hat on, how does this actually show up for us as small business owners? Through, number one, visibility and content creation. If you believe you're not interesting enough, smart enough, or ready enough, your brain will highlight everything and anything that validates that. Even down to, when we're posting on social media and you've got all the drafts in your Instagram folder because you think, oh, it's not good enough, oh, it's not finished enough, oh, I look like a bit of a knob, oh, I haven't got any makeup on. We tell ourselves this story over and over and over again. So if you shift your focus from I'm learning, I'm showing up, and someone needs to hear this, your RAS up here, that filter, will start to bring that to the top of the pile, and it will become less hard. I'm not going to say it's going to become easy, because it's not. It's a process, and we have to work through it. Your RAS actually supports confidence, not fear. So number two, opportunities. People who believe opportunities exist notice them. They make themselves apparent to them, or open yourself up to seeing these opportunities. But people who don't will miss them every single time, or they will poo-poo it, or they'll say it's a scam or whatever. Everyone sees opportunity in a different way. Number three, self-belief. If you believe you can grow, your filter looks for proof for you to grow and actually get the help that you need, whether that's through following people that lift you up. The social media hole is really a good example of this, because a lot of the time it's not a positive influence, it's a negative influence. So if someone's struggling with self-belief, whatever they search for, the algorithm will kind of overtake the RAS section of your brain and feed you all this constant negativity. Or mainstream media is another one, because there's so much doom and gloom on mainstream media, that when you turn the TV on, all you get is, someone's been beat up, or there's been a burglary, or, there's been a rape, or something's happened in the world, or there's a war on somewhere. It's very not pleasant stuff. And while that's news, as they call it, it's stuff that is ultimately feeding into that negative mindset and belief pattern. Number four is health and lifestyle. If you focus on well-being, your decisions follow. But if you focus on stress, your behaviour will follow that too. And this isn't magic, waving a fairy wand. It's actually shaping our attention into action. So as you know, if you've been watching any of my videos, I love to give you guys a little practical takeaway tip. So here are a couple of really simple ways to train your RAS, your Reticular Activating System, with intention. Of course, tip number one is choose what you want your brain to look for? And we just touched on that a little bit, with the whole TV and things like that and social media. So set a daily focus, even one line, right? And you can use any of these. Today I'm looking for progress, or today I'm looking for opportunities. Today I'm noticing things that support my well-being. And these are things that you can actually say out loud. It's better if you say them out loud, and it's also really good if you write them down as well, because your Raz is listening. Upstairs here is listening to what you want. So tip number 2, train your filter with small bits of evidence. So every time you notice something positive, useful or aligned, actually name it. And this rewires your brain to look for more. And tip number 3, be aware of what you rehearse mentally, what goes on unconsciously in your brain. Your brain treats repeated thoughts as instructions. I was huge on this. I was a huge ruminator. And that's just going over and over and over and over and over the same thing over and over again. And basically I was bringing these horrible junky things into existence. So tip number 3, be aware of what you rehearse mentally, intentionally or unintentionally. Your brain treats repeated thoughts as actual instructions. So rehearse fear, and your filter hunts for proof of that. But you rehearse possibility, and your filter hunts for proof of possibility. So you actually get to choose. You, the individual, actually gets to choose which direction you want to go in. How powerful is that? The law of attraction. So to finish off today, because I want to keep these short and around the 10-minute mark, the law of attraction in its grounded form isn't about magically pulling things towards you and just going, I'm going to live the best possible life that I can and all is going to be good in the hood. It's about understanding that your focus creates your filter, and your filter then shapes your reality. So when you choose to focus intentionally, everything absolutely begins to shift. So that's it. Today's little mini episode on the law ofs. So I've previously shared the law of rhythm. And as I said, I'm going to be sharing these up until Christmas, New Year of 2025, just as a little mini series, and going through some of the law ofs. And I hope you found that really insightful and interesting. I did. I always love to learn a bit more and find out a bit more about something a little bit more in depth than what I've been introduced to it from. So it's all about learning and gathering and giving ourselves a fighting chance to be the best versions of ourselves. So until next time, have an awesome day.